So, so welcome, Katherine. I'm going to let you introduce yourself to our group. I'm excited to have you come on, and we're just going to chat for a little bit about what is happiness and what lights you up and what do you do. They hear from me all the time. So I'd love for them to hear from other people.
Well, thank you. Thank you for the invite. Honored to be here with you. Happiness is something that is near and dear to my heart. In fact, it's so near and dear to me that I call myself a happiness coach. No such thing as that, other than what I coined or created. I thought I was the one and only. And like anything, when you buy a blue card, you're like, I've never seen this color before. It's beautiful. And then you see blue, that same shade of blue everywhere. Then
Everywhere.
so it's just one of those things. But happiness is incredibly important to me for the fact that for many years, 30 something years of my life, I sought happiness, chased after it, pursued it, thought it was in wealth, success, having your body look a certain way, being married and having the kids and having the things and all the stuff and traveling. And I remember standing in my front yard after acquiring all of that, and I wasn't happy. I was at my lowest. So, and it wasn't known. It wasn't visible. Anybody who asked about me, they probably would say, oh yeah, she's got it all. The fame, the fashion, the glory, everything, TV, everything, whatever I sought out to do or achieve and acquire or win or had all the celebrations. But I really was in a dark place in silence. So I really set out on this journey of self-discovery and self-reflection. And, you hear that quote or that statement that happiness is a state of mind. And, I knew that, and I thought I understood it, but I didn't until I experienced it. So, it really is about understanding what that means and feeling it and experiencing it. So it is really where my joy, my passion, my purpose, my meaning sparked from. I've always been in the service and helping people industry from one way or another. But it really is a passion of mine. And I find that to be, what lights me up is serving and helping people find their happiness.
Yeah. Yeah. And it really is, I mean, it really is a mindset shift, right? Like learning that happiness, you can create happiness and joy and all those things. It doesn't have to be external. Um, it's it's the sooner we can learn that, the better, I think is it took me, it took me finding coaching to realize that I can create my own reality essentially. Um, and that's a pretty powerful place to be.
Yeah. I think, really, and this is something I talk to my clients about at depth, is that we're conditioned and trained and we learn that happiness is external, right? Just going all the way back to a teddy bear and a blankie and Santa Claus and all the holidays and all the things, those things are what are going to make me happy. And whenever I even catch myself once in a while saying, oh, that tree makes me happy, or something like
Yeah.
that, this tree that
Yeah.
has blooming flowers. And
Right.
I will always, not always, I try to catch that. Like my ears will perk up and then I'll reflect on it and I'll change my wording.
Mm.
Uh, because I think it is this, we are trained to that. And it is a cultural thing. It is a way to keep the economy healthy, because we believe that when we buy that purse, that shoes, the house, the cars, the things, and
Yeah.
have that job title or whatever, we're going to be happy.
Yeah. Then we'll
Finally.
be happy. Yeah. I hear for a lot of healthcare workers, and this is something that I have experienced, is we get really unhappy and we think, oh, if I just change jobs, I'll be happy. And I did that. I had that experience. I thought, and looking back now, it was classic burnout. But I changed jobs and I was like, for a moment, I was happy, right? For a little while I was. And then I started having the same thoughts. oh, this client, this, and my boss doesn't understand that. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I brought my own mindset with me to this new job and I'm making myself unhappy again. Right. And luckily I had found coaching at that point. And so I noticed it. And, like you said, your ear kind of perks up and you're like, oh, shoot. Okay, hold on. It's not the patient. It's not my boss. Like, yes, they need to be respectful. And yes, people are people, but like, I get to choose my own happiness. I get to decide whether how my internal state is, right? Yeah.
I
Changing
love
jobs.
that
Yeah.
I love that you shared that,
Yeah.
because
Thank you.
what was the common denominator between those two jobs? And I see that in relationships too. I see
Yeah.
that in, I have clients that are like, come to me and they're like, I've had 4 marriages and 4 divorces, and all of them told me the same thing. And it's dawning on me right now that there's one common denominator.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's so funny because, like, we get that little honeymoon phase, right? Like, you change jobs or you get that beautiful bag that you've been saving for, or, you do a fitness challenge and you get the body that you've been looking for, and you have that moment of happiness because you should be proud of yourself for saving up for that fancy bag or putting in all that work for a particular body. But like unless you're doing mental work along with it, you're not changing your internal state. So,
I could guarantee that's real for my own experience, because I've done bodybuilding for 12 years. And there's never been a show, and I've done 3 shows in a month before, but I've never gotten my body perfect.
mhm.
And I've gotten, first place. I've gotten overall. I've gotten a pro card on the natural division. And I still look in the
Mhm.
mirror and see I could do more.
Yep.
So there's just
Yep.
never a finish line. Career
Mhm.
wise too.
Mhm. Oh,
I
yeah.
had I was previously an insurance agent, and every manager or supervisor or boss, whatever the title was, it changed throughout my career.
Yeah.
Every time I got a new one, I told them, leave me alone. Don't call me. Don't contact me. Don't walk through my doors. And if I call you, you better be on hyper alert, because it's really important. I am my own worst critic. You don't need to
Yeah.
bother me. And it was so true. My inner dialogue, the ego, the saboteur, whatever you want to call
Yeah.
it, left brain thinking, I was just
Yeah.
brutal.
Yeah.
And I'm so glad I befriended that voice. Now I'm made friends with it. I
Mm.
We laugh, we chuckle at each other, and
Yep.
it's just, I'm in a place now where it's, yeah, it is a mindset that we, it's yeah. I've been in times in my life where I'm kind of like feel like I'm in a closet in a knife fight with that inner voice.
Yeah.
And it does take really having someone external like you or me,
Mhm.
uh, to really point out the spinach in our teeth, right? To
Mhm.
really point out where we're misunderstanding,
Yeah.
and help us really come to terms with it. But it
Yeah.
does take us being ready and willing to accept it too, because
Yeah.
there's been times, like I've taken a personality test one time
Mhm.
that said that I was a perfectionist. And I was so upset by that. I was like, I'm going to take that test again and I'm going to get a better score. And I'm not going to be red and a perfectionist. Like, what is wrong? That's not me. I just was super
Oh,
offended by that. Which is hilarious, because I had a client take an assessment that I have all my clients take this weekend.
uh,
And she texted me and she's like, it's not right. It's not possible. Da, da, da. And I'm like, please just send me the results and we'll talk about it.
mhm.
Not
Mhm.
ready. She's not ready yet.
Yeah, yeah. Well, when we're in our own brains, like with that critic, or I don't have an inner critic so much as I have an inner worrier.
Mm.
Um, and when we're in that place, like I think of my inner that inner voice as more of like the worrier or the overthinker, right? And when we're in that place with that voice, until we've learned how to notice it, it just sounds like you. It's you. Like, how can you separate yourself from you? But, like, that's where that outside voice, that outside coach going, "Okay, interesting,
Mhm.
but what about this? And, okay, have you considered this?" Right? And walking you through maybe that voice, maybe that is part of you, but can you turn it down?
Yeah.
Can you just accept that it's one option and you've got other options, right? It takes that outside voice just helping you like, it's gonna be okay. And you're right. I've befriended that voice. I've learned to chuckle with that voice. Like, I was the other day, I was working on something and it was way outside of my comfort zone. And I'm like, I could feel myself starting to get worried and panic. And I'm like, I just don't know if I can do this. Like, maybe I've bitten off more than I can chew. And I'm like, oh, and I noticed it and I did. I kind of laughed and I'm like, okay, this is perfectly normal. This is my brain doing what my brain does. It's okay. Okay, just move forward. Let's go. Let's do it anyway, right?
Yeah.
So, but yeah, it's amazing what we're capable of when we decide we want to change, when we decide we can befriend those parts of us that maybe haven't been what we would love, right?
Mhm.
Uh, it's amazing what we're capable of.
I love how you worded that. It's what brains do. And it
Hmm.
truly is. It's well-meaning.
Yeah.
It has good intentions for
Hmm.
us. It's wanting to keep us safe. That's why I tell
Yep.
my clients all the time, our brain does not care if we're successful, if we're happy, if we're in love, if we fit in a size X pair of pants. It doesn't care about all that. It's just trying to keep you safe, and it's using fragments
Exactly.
of the past and it's memory. That's it. And it's just, working
Exactly.
super hard, and it wants you to be proud of it. And so one of the things
Absolutely.
that we do is we name the inner critic or
Yeah.
saboteur or
Hmm.
voice or whatever. And so mine
Hmm.
is bossy pants, because
Hmm.
yours might have a flavor of worry. Mine is a flavor of being bossy.
Hmm. Yep.
And
Yep.
so it took me a while, because I challenge my clients every once in a while to
Yeah.
name it
Hmm.
if they need
Yeah.
help with dividing it. And
Getting it. Yes. Yes.
so
Hmm.
my
Getting that
husband's, he's got
separation.
his is BTO and mine is
Hmm.
bossy pants, and we'll call it out like,
Yeah.
oh, but BTO is hyperactive today. And it's nice
Mhm.
because I'm not saying he's being X, Y, and
Yes.
Z.
Yes.
It's a separation too, where it could be
Yeah.
funny, right? And we don't take
Yeah.
it personally. And he'll say to me too,
Yes.
hey, bossy pants is out today. Wow, bossy
Yeah.
pants is really loud and clear today, and we can laugh
Right.
about it, and it really
Yeah.
lightens the
I love
mood.
that. That's a good point. I have so I've been married for 18 years and learned just in the last couple of years since I've learned coaching techniques, it's given us a language, right? It's given us terminologies and not even so much as like the like coaching part of it has been fantastic, but like just being able to label here's I'm feeling anxious and here's my thought, right? And he's been able to say, is that a thought? Is that a fact? Or is that a thought that you're having? He's like trying to understand, right? Like what's going on in my brain? Is that, and just being able to label like, oh, that's a survival, you're in survival mode right now, you're activated, that kind of stuff. Um, it's so nice because you can kind of back off and be like, this isn't personal.
Right.
It's just my brain trying to survive,
Yeah.
right?
And
It's
it's
just my
something that I'm
brain.
working on.
Yeah, yeah. And it's been nice having that shared language, right? Around
Mhm.
I call it the motivational triad, right? Of what our brain cares about. Survival, essentially.
Right.
Is what it
Ultimately.
comes down to. So I love that. Okay. Awesome. Well, what else are you excited about lately? What's been lighting you up lately? Obviously
Lighting
coaching is
me
amazing.
actually today I got an email. So I am a part of a company that's fairly new. It's only 3 years old. It's called First Responders Coaching. And so my husband is a retired Alaska State Trooper. So I'm a former first responder's wife. And this company is setting out across the US and Canada to coach first responders and their families. And so I reached out to her a year and a half ago, like,
Mhm,
keep me posted, let me know how
mhm.
I can help and support you. And so she's just kind of like, I don't know, she reached out to me about 6, 8 months ago and was like, I really want to talk to you about this. And so we had wonderful conversations over a couple of months. And so basically the email I got today was, we're going to push you through our school pro bono. I've been really as active as I can, showing up to all the meetings and doing all the
Yeah,
things and coaching people for free and being as active as I can. And
yeah.
I want to travel with them, because they go to a lot of conferences, and
Very cool.
they're East Coast. They're based out of Maine.
Okay.
So I want to cover the West Coast, but until
Yes.
I want to experience what it's like to do these conferences and do it on the West
Yes.
Coast,
Yes. Yeah.
solo or with them,
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah. However they need you to, yeah, provide that.
But that's really taking off. So I'm
Exciting.
incredibly, yeah, excited.
That's very
I'm also
cool.
CISM trained, which is critical incident stress
Mm,
management. So it's really about anybody that's nurses.
mhm.
In my opinion, nurses are first responders too, honestly. Like they deal with a lot of trauma and
Yep.
chronic, right? It's like over and over and over and over
Yeah.
again and not having that time to
Yeah.
process. And
Yeah.
so I'm also in a nonprofit locally. I spend a maximum of 15 hours that are dealing with CISM. And I told them long ago, doctors, nurses, EMTs are on the list already, but doctors,
Yeah.
nurses,
Yeah.
few other ones that I named
Yeah.
off, I felt like really need
Yeah.
to be in that canister of first responders.
Yeah.
And they agreed. They're just like, we just got to start small and then we'll keep expanding, Katherine. I'm
Yeah.
like, all right, all right, right. But I do believe that the coaching really is needed in a lot of areas that kind of get overlooked.
Yeah. Well, so often I think I love that there are programs out there for first responders and people are realizing that like those EMTs, firefighters, police officers, like those first people on the ground, that is a special level of trauma,
Mhm.
right? And safety and like that's a special level. There is that second level of like healthcare workers that are dealing with trauma and it's almost because it is a little well, except for ER. I mean, ER nurses and doctors and techs and such, that's pretty frontline. But like if you work med surge, I worked med surge for 17 years. Yes, technically you're not a first responder. It's a lower level of trauma, but every day you've got somebody coding, somebody passing away expectedly. You've got people who are angry and upset because they're scared. You've got people who are angry and upset because they're experiencing a psychotic break. Like, and it is a level of trauma. And unfortunately, there hasn't been a lot of discussion about it, right?
Right.
And so we're seeing these levels of burnout and anxiety and depression and just crazy amounts of just people wanting to leave. And
Yeah.
it's like I think if we can get and this is the whole reason I went into coaching is because I realized like I didn't have to live in that burnout anymore, right? I love nursing. I can do my job and maintain my mental health because I've
Yeah.
learned how to do it, right? And I know how to keep myself safe and I know how to heal from traumatic experiences, right? But it definitely is not something I could have done on my own. I needed the support. I needed
Yeah.
the outside voices, the outside tools and techniques and stuff. And I'm just excited for where healthcare is going to go, honestly, because there are groups like your groups that will leak into. I know your groups specifically work with first responders, but like that's going to leak into
Mhm.
all the other healthcare fields too. So
Yeah.
it's exciting.
We just
I'm
need to
excited.
give you guys a voice.
Yeah.
And I've worked with a few nurses. You and I've had some conversation about that, in a very high level,
Mhm.
nothing with detail, but I really feel as though just like first responders, nurses
Mhm.
are super proud, right? They're heroes and they have a hard time asking for help. But I really think when we
Yeah,
raise our hand and say, look, I really need some help navigating this, it's an act of bravery, it's an act of
absolutely.
courage. And if we can advocate more for
Yeah.
that, I think that this would,
Yeah.
it's mental health month.
I know, yeah.
Yeah, let's preach. Let's go to the
Right?
rooftops and
Yeah.
let's, I really think that if we could advocate in some way that's like, oh, another nurse, signed up, or,
Yes.
even if it's just group coaching that we can
Mhm.
do where it's just a
Yep.
space where they feel safe and can
Mhm.
share,
Yep. That's
off
that's
camera
on
and with an
that's
alias. I don't
yep,
care.
that's part of what I'm working on.
Yeah. There we go. There we
It's gonna
go.
happen pretty soon here. I have my to-do list that I have to work through.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and
We
that's what
need,
I do on my one-on-one coaching is
yeah.
exactly that, walking people through how to create safety, how to handle your mental health, how to go into work every day and maintain your energy and protect your boundaries and like all of that. So,
Well, the
yeah.
beautiful thing about coaching one-on-one is it's not on your medical information. It's
Yes.
private,
Yes.
it's confidential,
Mhm.
it's No
exactly.
one needs to know about it,
Exactly.
but you and your coach. And that's such a huge safety, and
Yeah.
that's why I do what I do too. I get assigned a number and your
Mhm.
name is completely, I have no idea, unless you reveal it.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
it's just, I'm
Yeah.
working with the human being. That's it.
Yep.
Mhm.
Exactly. Exactly. I love it. Changing the world.
Yeah.
We'll get there.
Yeah.
I love it. Well, thank you so much for chatting. If people want to know more about the first responder stuff, and bringing it into our area or getting coaching for their first responder loved ones, like where would they go? What would they?
So firstresponderscoaching.org, I'm pretty
Awesome.
sure that's what it is. I'll get you
Okay.
the link and we can
Yeah.
definitely
Yeah.
put it underneath. Yep.
Perfect. Perfect. I think that's an amazing, I mean, obviously we're nurses and we know a lot of people in the community.
Mhm.
And so I think that would be a wonderful resource to bring to Tri-Cities. So,
Yeah,
all right.
absolutely. Thank you, Betty.
Thank you so much for coming in and chatting with us. All
Yes.
right. Take care.
Bye-bye.